Today we are going to be talking about 1099s, the process, and how we can use QuickBooks Online to help identify who should be receiving a 1099 at the beginning of the year. If the 1099 process completely confuses you, don't worry, you are not alone. This is usually a sticky point for most business owners, but in today's video, we're going to go step by step, looking at QuickBooks and understanding who is receiving a 1099 and an easy way to make sure you're submitting it properly to the IRS. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Katrina. If you are new to our world, my business partner Cheryl and I run and own Empower to Profit, where we help small business owners put more profit in their pockets through their business. Because if you're not making any money as the business owner, is the business really worth it? So let's take a look at QuickBooks and best understand how to submit 1099s. All right, so here we are in QuickBooks, and the first thing we need to identify is who exactly gets a 1099, how you can be familiar and understand what you should be looking out for throughout the year. So then when 1099 season is upon us as business owners, you're all ready, you're all prepped, and you know exactly what to do. So we have created this flow chart to help make it a little bit easier for you to understand some things you should be looking out for when you go to pay another business or a contractor, and you know how to enter it the right way and if they need a 1099 or not. So if we start at the top here, you first need to ask what the business entity is of the person you are paying. And you might think that that is an awkward or weird question to ask, but if this person has been a contractor or been in business long enough, they'll be familiar with the question and have the document ready that they can provide to you. So you can either ask them directly, or you can ask them to give you a W-9 form, which will then give you the next answer to the question. So a W-9 form is an IRS document that business owners can give to other business owners that indicates what kind of entity they file taxes as. So this is your W-9, and this is what you will be receiving from the person that you are paying. And this box number 3, this is where they will have checked whether they are a sole proprietor, a single member LLC, or a corporation. This is important because if this individual is a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, you are moving yourself down the flow chart to the next question. If the business is a C Corp, an S Corp, or any kind of incorporated, you do not need to issue them a 1099. So that's all I need to know about that W-9 paper. So if we hop back to the flow chart, let's say I paid somebody who was a sole proprietor. So yes, they are a sole proprietor. We're going to the next box. Did you pay the vendor or the contractor $600 or more? Yes, I did. Did you pay for a service? Yes, I did. Did you pay by check, cash, ACH, a personal Venmo, or a Zelle? Yes, I did. Then that 1099 is required. So this is a handy little flow chart. If you would like a copy of it, comment below. We'll be more than happy to send it your way. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of this because I really want to focus on how we use QBO to issue the 1099s. So if you have more questions about this, comment in the chat. Let me know if you want a copy of this flow chart. We can send it your way. So after we understand that flow chart, now we are looking at the contractors or the vendors that we have in our QuickBooks account. And what you will be copying off of this W-9 form is going right into your vendor information in your QuickBooks file. So this is why it's really helpful. It makes end of year tax season a lot quicker, a lot simpler, a lot more efficient, and it doesn't feel as stressful. So you go into this edit box here, You enter all the information about the contractor or the business who is providing you a service that you are paying via check. And then if you scroll down, you will see this track payments for 1099 right here. You would tick that and put in their EIN or their social, depending what they put on the W-9. From there, so as you're going throughout the year, you're adding all of this vendor information to your QuickBooks file. So when it is time to issue the 1099s, everything is already updated in your file and you don't need to do all that back work. Two different ways you can go ahead and use QuickBooks to file those 1099s. The first way is you can go over to this taxes tab and they have a handy 1099 filing button that you can click on and they'll walk you through the navigation of what that looks like. So you're going to go ahead, yep, let's get started. And then they'll walk you through step by step. You'll put in your business information there. So we went ahead and entered all of our company information. Yours will probably pre-fill because it's already filled out when you set up your QuickBooks file, but just in case you can fill it in. And then it's going to ask you, the next question is, what type of 1099 do you want to file? The only thing you need to know is you're probably only going to file the 1099 NEC. Possibly a 1099 miscellaneous, but probably not. So we'll just focus on the 1099 NEC for this video's training. So next step is it's going to give you the drop down from your chart of accounts, and it's going to have you choose which buckets you want QuickBooks to search for those payments that you issue to contractors. So this is where it becomes important that you understand your QuickBooks file if you're the one issuing your 1099s for your business. So I know in this QuickBooks file, I made contractor payments and they were categorized under contractors in my chart of accounts. So I'm going to select that. We also had some advertising expenses and I had somebody running my ads for me. So they provided me a service. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Any kind of service-based industry, photographers is another big one. So it's important to know how you categorize those payments in your books so you know what categories to click when you're working on this. So these down here are going to be very specific. They're not really ever used. They're very rarely, or they're very specific to an industry. So the next thing we're going to do is look through the list that QuickBooks is providing me. So these are the 3 vendors that QuickBooks recognized in the books to say, hey, these are some vendors that we think might need a 1099. Please review. So I would look at this and say, okay, yep. So I need an email address for this vendor. I need the tax ID for this vendor. And then you can click next. And then this is going to be where it tells you if you need to issue them a 1099. So if you met the threshold, if you didn't meet the threshold, they're giving you different options. And then you can go finish preparing and issue those through QuickBooks Online. Another safety check that I like to use when I am looking through QuickBooks for 1099 services is you go to the report section. And if you search 1099 in the search tool, QuickBooks does a 1099 transaction detail report that you can run. And then that is where they will tell you which vendors need a 1099 most likely. I always say double check everything. If you think like, I think this vendor should be on this report, I don't know why it's not, you can always go back and look at the vendor listed and make sure everything is captured correctly. But if you've been doing it consistently throughout the year, all of your vendor payments should show up on this report if they've been paid via check, via ACH, via Zelle, directly through your bank. Anything paid for with a credit card or through Venmo or a business PayPal, that PayPal, the business Venmo, those companies are responsible for sending out the 1099s. So you don't need to issue one. So I hope that's not too confusing. I know it seems like a lot of information, but really if you gather all the information up front and use your QuickBooks correctly to document all of your payments, all of your vendor information, when tax time, when 1099 season comes up, it really won't be that stressful. It always feels a little stressful, and then you do it and it seems like it was a lot easier than you think it should be. So my best advice is to be prepared, and then you won't find yourself urgently trying to get something collected or hunt down the vendor information because you didn't collect their EIN up front, stuff like that. Couple quick tips to make the season a lot simpler for you. Like I said in the beginning, collect that W-9 right out of the gate. If you are paying somebody from your bank account via ACH or a check, ask them right away for their W-9. Then you have their information. So if it doesn't make it into the software, you at least have it on file that you don't have to track them back down and ask for that information. A couple of things to keep in mind. The deadline for 2023 taxes is January 31st, 2024. So mark your calendar weekly in the month of January so you don't get to a couple days before that date and all of a sudden remember that they're due the next day. And also be aware, if you are filing via a third-party software, they might have a due date that is earlier than the IRS due date. So the IRS requires that it's due on January 31st. But QuickBooks, for example, asks that all of your information is submitted to them by January 27th. So just something to keep in mind. And a lot of third-party websites do require additional payments to pay for the filing fee. I believe QuickBooks starts at $3.99 for the first 3, and then $3.19 up to $20. Tax 1099 is another great software that you can use, and they are charging $2.90 per form this year. And then my last reminder to you is some states do require a 1099 submission, not just on the federal level, also on the state level. So please be sure you are checking your state websites to see if your state falls into the category of them being submitted or not. And if you have questions about where your state falls with that, I also have a handy dandy little chart for that as well. So comment below. I can give you guys the charts. I can give you guys the flow charts. Be more than happy to share that with you. But I hope this was helpful. I hope it answered a few of your questions. Hope it helped relieve some of the stress that comes with 1099 season. But as always, thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, cheers to profit.